Welcome to the Money Savvy Parents Podcast, the podcast for parents to gain financial education to then pass on through the generations. I am your host, Laura, mother to 3 beautiful children and founder of a financial coaching business, Savvy Peacocks. Let's remove the taboo from money together. Hello everybody, welcome back to my podcast. I am really excited today because this is the first in a monthly bonus episode. Aside from the weekly episodes, they will continue, but on a monthly basis, I've chosen to interview some people for our podcast that I think you as an audience can really benefit from. And today I've got the lovely financial advisor and TV personality, Emmanuel. Although I want to call you Uncle Eman, I don't know if I'm allowed to call you that.
Yes, Uncle Eman is cool, man. We're there. However you feel comfortable, we're good.
It's lovely to have you. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. I feel like I've got a celebrity in the room with me.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. It's an absolute honor to be on here, man. I love the work that you do. I love the way you explain stuff. And we need so many different voices speaking, obviously, as a mom, as a woman. We need more of that in financial services. We need more. So I just love the work that you're doing, and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, what's really awesome about us is obviously we met through Clubhouse, and I think Clubhouse is such a great forum, isn't it, to be able to meet people that we probably never would have come across otherwise. You would have been one of these untouchable people that I wouldn't have been able to get my hands on.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think one thing about Clubhouse is because it's less visual, it's more voice. You can actually listen to what people are saying. I think a lot of the time on social media, people look the part, and so they've got the right camera and the right angles and the right lighting, the right music and the right editing that they can make themselves look like they know what they're talking about. Clubhouse kind of stripped that all away. You're either talking sense or you're not talking sense, and it was great to share that room with you, and you had some wonderful points. And so I love when I hear people talk and I feel like, oh, we studied at the same financial school, we went to we got the same core values. So yeah, I'm happy to be on here, man.
Yeah, definitely. So you've got so much going on in your life. You're all over the place on every single TV channel that I can think of. So what's going on for you right now? What's your priority?
Yeah, we got so much going on and off. So I've got a show, the new TV show that's coming up later in the year. Can't say too much about that, but that's going to be coming out later on in the year. So that's really good. Talks all over the place. So talks at schools, universities, workplaces, so doing work with corporates, obviously now representing corporates because people want me to be their brand. So I do speaking events on behalf of companies now. I mean, it's non-stop, as well as, a wife and 4 kids. So it's all go. Good.
Well, keeps you out of trouble then.
Definitely.
So talk to me about the universities, because that's something that I'm particularly passionate about. It's a sort of a turning point of age, isn't it, when it comes to money?
Yeah, definitely. I just think, I try and get them in college, but a lot of colleges I find that a lot of the colleges that book me, unfortunately, are private schools. So I get a lot of private schools where they've got the budget to be able to afford to do these extracurricular stuff. I get a few academies now that are having budgets and be able to do that. But financial education is so important, and I feel like what I really don't like is that you go to university, no one's taught you about money. You've probably lived on pocket money from your mum or your dad or whoever. You've lived off somebody else's income. And all of a sudden, here's a credit card, here's an overdraft, here's student loan. And you're just supposed to know how to manage it, how to live with it, how to be responsible with it. When this may be your first encounter with money of that magnitude, you may never have seen, £2,000 or £3,000 in your account all at once. And all of a sudden, you're supposed to be a responsible adult. And so I see a lot of people who end up getting in debt, end up way beyond what they needed to be, and end up making bad financial decisions that lead them to ending up still paying off. I spoke to someone yesterday who is almost 40 and is still paying off not just student loan, but student debt. So debts because they went and opened loads of different credit cards thinking they were being really clever. And they're only coming to the age of 40 and only getting to the point where they're finally paying it off.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's one of those minefield things, isn't it? That we go off to university and there's so much prep for the studying side and the whole
Yes,
experience, and nobody seems to take account of that situation that you find yourself in, where you're accountable for yourself. You've got to put food on your own table and look after
exactly.
yourself. Yeah, so I think that's great that you're going into the universities. And then, of course, the other end, when they come out of university and get a job and don't know what to do with their first paycheck.
Yeah, don't know, and who teaches them? I mean, and also it's a lot of culture. For example, if you're like from a Nigerian background like me, a lot of the time when you get your first paycheck, culture would say that you give that paycheck to your
Mm,
parents, and then
yeah.
they might give you a little back, whatever. But you know that was what you're supposed to honor your parents. But I mean, if you've been born here in the UK and it's different, and sometimes there's that culture clash where I know people who are living rent free, and I know other people whose parents are charging them huge amounts of money, which is now stopping them. It might be helping their parents survive, but it's now stopping their ability to go on to buy their own place or whatever. And so it's that balance of who's teaching people what's right and what's wrong, and how do we actually start to put our children on a platform and give them a leg up as opposed to needing them to survive.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. So in your opinion, do you think that young adults should pay rent to their parents?
Good question. I believe when I think about for my kids, I want to be in a position where they don't have to, where I don't need them to, but I definitely feel like you appreciate something a lot more when you contribute to it.
Yeah.
It's just human nature. If I've and this might be going off topic, but I have when I was younger, I knew people who did crime and made their money from crime, and you'd see that as soon as it came in, it would go out because they haven't had to go and 9 to 5 and sit there. The money has come just as quick and just as quick as it goes, and that's
Mm.
human nature. You have to learn the value of money in itself and understand that actually, if I'm buying this pair of trainers that cost £500, £500 is 2 weeks of work. So I've gone to work for 2 weeks to buy trainers that I could put on my feet, and I'm only going to go out maybe 2 or 3 times and wear these because obviously you can't wear the same trainers every single time. So now you have spent half a month's work for maybe 3 or 4 appearances in a year. And when you
Yeah.
start to understand the value of money and what it takes to actually make that money, you start to act different. And this is why, for me, business is fundamental for young people. I always
Yeah.
tell young people to start a business, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or not, start a business. Because when you can create money from your own hands, and you know the sweat and tears and the hard work it takes to get someone to buy just one product or buy your service, the way you will look at money and understand money will be completely different.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's any right or wrong as well. Some parents charge, just a nominal amount just to
Yeah,
kind of get that feeling going. But for me, I don't really see much point in that. Like, what's the point in charging them 50 quid? They don't
yeah,
care about 50 quid. That's nothing to them.
exactly.
So I think if you're going to do it properly, maybe not full rent, but
Yeah,
similar to what they'd pay to rent a room. And if you want to save a proportion of that for them, then fair
exactly.
enough. But you've got to install that value of money from an early age. Otherwise, it's just going to hit them so hard in the face when they move out, isn't it?
Definitely. And I think also there's compromise as well. So you might say, okay, well, if this is what it costs to house you, to feed you, to keep you. If I'm not going to charge you that, I need you to do X, whether it be, like I said, start a business, whether it be do some extracurricular activities, whether it be
Yeah.
do some charity work. I feel like charity work is so undervalued in our
Mm.
community. We don't think about just giving back. And there's just I just feel like we're losing being human, like just the human element of helping someone that is less fortunate than yourself. I feel like we are so focused on ourselves and our numbers and likes on social media that we forget there are people that are just someone's always worse than you. And
Mm.
if we as people just looked back a bit more and just said, let me help this one person. I know there's the analogy of these starfish on the beach, and there's so many starfish, and then these two guys are walking, and one of them picks up a starfish and throws it back into the sea, and the guy goes, "Why? What's the point? There's so many out here." And the guy and the response was, "But it mattered to that one. It was
Yeah.
important to that one." And if we all just help one person, we make a huge difference. As opposed to trying, we might not be able to help 100 or 200 or 1,000, but if we can make one person's life a bit better, as a community, as people, we make as a society, it's a better place for our children to live in and grow up in.
I think that's part of what's so important to us as parents, isn't it? You know, it's our responsibility to teach them those things and to give them those life skills, to explain to them how important it is to do some kind of voluntary work somewhere within your routine, your rhythm and routine. So it's not just make a big hoo-ha about it once a year. This is something you regularly do. Because, you know, in whichever forum you want it to be, you know, you can volunteer in a whole host of different ways, can't you? But for me, it's just as important as teaching them how to save and how to spend their money and what to do with their first pay slip and all those things. It's giving back is really important as well. I agree.
Important. Definitely.
So let's delve into some of the things we wanted to talk about today. So what do you see as the common area that most people miss when they're looking at increasing their financial literacy? Because this is something that's quite close to my heart for my audience.
There are so many different things. I think I always say this: you don't know you have a problem until you know you have a problem. And it sounds simple, but for a lot of people, they don't know that they have a financial issue. So being in debt, having credit cards, living paycheck to paycheck is not a problem to them, because when they look around, the environments that they're in is very normal. And so, you know, using an overdraft to go on holiday, that might be very difficult. In fact, you might have even got that advice from a friend to say, "Oh, you might say, oh, I can't afford to go." And I know, just put it on your overdraft, or just put it on your credit card, and you can pay it off later. And so, all of a sudden, these things are no longer a problem. And so, for me, the biggest thing is, I find that people say, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to start." But there is so much information. You have to look inside yourself and say, number one, do I want change? Because the information is out there, but no one can't change you unless you want to change yourself. And so for me, it's that seeking. So I always talk about when people want to change jobs, you know, okay, what do I need to do? I need to do my CV, or I might need to take an online course or so forth. It's the exact same thing with your finances. You look at it, you have to do a MOT. Where am I at? What's going good? What's not going good? How am I living? How much does it cost to be me? I always tell people, how much does it cost to be you? Not a clue. And so if you don't know how much it costs to be yourself, how much it costs to be you, how do you know that whether you're living within your means, above your means, to exact your means? And a lot of people, I think furlough and, you know, what happened last year with the pandemic showed a lot of people that they were living to 100, 110, 120% of their income. And so sitting at home getting 80% still wasn't enough for them. People were actually struggling.
And it should have been enough.
It should have been.
It should have been enough.
Without doubt.
Especially if you're sat at home not doing anything and everything's closed. 80% should have been enough. You're absolutely right. And also I think it's being aware of who you're taking education from. Like you say, don't just look at your direct peers around you, because they could be telling you something completely incorrect and making it completely normal. You know, seek out that education. There's so much out there, isn't there, these days, that, you know, it shouldn't really be an excuse that you didn't know where to go, because it doesn't matter where you turn. There's loads of information out there.
Exactly. And what people are passionate about, they'll see when it comes to, for example, football, no one needed to guide you on where to go to get the latest news. You can have Sky News on 24. It's saying the exact same thing every hour. You're still watching it. On and on and on. Do you know what I mean? No one needs to tell you if you want to know what the latest news is with your club. You know what websites to go. You know when the game is on. You know what time it's on. You know what channel it's going to be on. You are very much passionate about it, and you're very intentional with the things that are important to you. So what you have to tell yourself is, am I going to make my finances important to me? And if I am, then I'm going to be intentional to improve those finances.
Yeah, I completely agree. I agree. So, as parents, how do you think that we can best plan for our future goals? Because, you know, kids come along, they're really expensive. Maybe some of the goals we had in the past aren't the same, because everything just sort of realigns itself, doesn't it, when children come along? So how can we best plan for our future goals, and what should our future goals look like?
Great question. I think when it comes to our future goals, I'm a big believer in knowing your why. And so for me, I have to know my whys and what makes me wake up in the morning. Why do I wake up? Yes, obviously we have to go to work, we have to make money and all of this stuff. But why? What is the end goal? What am I working towards? And for me, that's the starting point. And then it's about, okay, now I know my why and my purpose and the reason I get up and I'm gonna go to, even though I'm tired or even I might not feel the best or I might not want to, I'm going to anyway because of my why. Then we have to create goals. And so for me, as parents, it depends on what your goals are. You can have, and I don't feel like there should just be one. I feel like you have to think about your goals. Like I'm married, but I've got goals with my wife. But she's got her own goals as well, individual goals, and I've got my own individual goals. And we have goals for our children. Do you know what I mean? But also we understand that as kids, they're going to develop. So, for example, I might want my kids to do music lessons, and that's amazing. But I know that one day they may turn around and say, actually, I don't want to play the keyboard anymore. I don't, and I have to accept that and understand that as much as I have goals and I have dreams and aspirations for my children, what I really need to do is equip them to be great adults and allow them to live their life and not try and live my life through them. I find that I meet a lot of parents who are giving their kids, not wrongly, I understand why they do it, are giving their kids the things that they didn't have, but not asking their kids if they want them. And so
Yeah.
all of a sudden, these kids are doing all these extracurricular activities that a lot of them they don't want to do, which is costing huge amounts of money. I'm talking huge amounts of the monthly amount of money coming in is going out on these activities. And actually, if you just ask your child, all they really want to do is sit down and play PlayStation with you or watch a film or do you know what I mean? But now
Yeah.
we're pushing them to do these things because we think, oh, I wish I could have done that when I was a child, but it's a different time.
No, it is a different time. And I think including children in your goals as a family is really
Yes.
important as well, so that they're aware of what you're working towards as a family unit and sort of
Yes.
helps create some of that excitement then. And then that allows them to have their voice of being able to say, do you know what? I'm doing those karate lessons, but don't actually want to do karate anymore. This is where my passion lies. Can we
Exactly.
realign things and giving them a choice?
Exactly.
It's something that I was never really given. It was always like, this is what's laid out for you. You either do what your dad did or do what your mum did. And there was no kind of choice in between. It
Nothing.
was just, and I think that's the difference, how we can be different these days.
Yeah, and I feel like we want to break the trend. We know that, especially like for me, my parents were first. Like I'm first generation. I'm the first
Mm-hmm.
person in my family born in the UK. So I know that my parents are going to bring certain things that they learn in a completely different financial landscape.
Yeah.
Like if you think about where they bought, when you buy a house, you buy it cash, you buy the land, you buy the house, and you build it. There's no mortgage, there's no deposits, and all these type of things. There's no loans and credit. You buy it, you've got the money, you buy it. You ain't got the money, you don't have it. It's a completely
Mm-hmm.
different society and mindset. And so they're bringing that over here. And so I have to be and our generation has to be the generation to say, well, we're going to take the best bits from our parents, but also we're going to bring the best bits from the culture that we're in and where we're at and try and fuse and give our kids the best step forward. And I talk about generational wealth so often. I think, as a parent, it's beyond just my goals and my dreams. It's about trying to help my children and give them a leg up that I didn't have. When I went to the workplace, I didn't have an uncle that I could say, "Oh, can I get some work experience?" I
Yeah.
didn't even know what work. I just knew I was just going to work hard. And luckily, I put enough hard work in, learned on the job, made mistakes. And a wise person learns from other people's mistakes. So if I can teach my children the mistakes that I made and be open, like you said, my parents never shared nothing with me. I could
No.
never, I could even imagine my parents doing shopping and saying, "Oh, mom, can you buy?" What do you mean? You don't even bring no £1 to this. You have no
You don't.
say.
You have no say.
No say. Whatever comes in this house, you will eat, and that is it. There's no, "Oh, I like this or I like that or whatever." But
Yeah.
it's so important what you said about bringing them in. Like our kids, they have a shopping budget. Like they're part of the shop. They understand. So
Yeah.
because sometimes they'll just go and take a yogurt from the fridge and then take another yogurt from the fridge, and then all of a sudden there's pots of yogurt, half are not even finished, and so much waste. But because
Yeah.
they're part of the budget, they understand. They understand money, understand what they're bringing, what their cost is, and also when we were buying a house, we had to save, so we had to make cuts, and they
Mm.
understood that. Because I was like, when we get this new house, you're gonna have your own bedroom. You want your own
Yeah.
bedroom, right? Yeah, we want our own bedroom. Excellent. So now they're involved. It's so important to not to think, oh, they're only 5 or they're 6 or whatever. They're too young. No,
No,
they're
they're not too
learning, they're
young.
developing so quick. If you see how, I mean, my child is 2 years old. She can put on the Skybox and put on her channel. I'm like, I don't even know. I didn't know none of this stuff when I was a kid. They can use the phone, the apps. They know how to go into YouTube Kids and all of this type of stuff. And so
Yeah.
they're developing so quick, and society is throwing so much at them so quick.
Hmm.
We need to make sure that we're throwing stuff at them as well to try
Yeah.
and make a balance.
Balance it out. Do you share with them, your Nigerian upbringing and some of the things that you've learned with that, as well as how you're living now? Do they see the difference? Do you talk to
Yeah.
them openly about that?
Yeah, I do, and also I try and well, our parents are my parents and my wife's parents are very close as well, so we take them around there so they can see, the grandparents are a bit different, and grandparents will tell them stories of this and how they used to go to the stream to get water and all these types of stories and type of things. So they understand culture and where they come from, and they understand that there are people who are much more less fortunate than themselves, and so all that they're lucky to they're privileged to have certain opportunities that other people don't have, and not to waste it. I think that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. One thing
Yeah.
I always say is that I wasted my education. Like I should have. I didn't really understand. I didn't really. Although now I teach people finance, and I'm qualified and all of this type of stuff. Secondary school, college, all for me. I thought I was going to be a basketball player or a rugby player. I wasn't thinking about education, and I wasted it so much. And so for me, it's about making them understand the importance. Because all my parents did was go to school, go to school, go. I didn't understand why. And it's so important that actually we don't just tell our kids what to do, we explain why we want them to do it and get their feedback and thoughts on what we're saying. Because when
Yeah.
they get into the real world, that's what's going to happen.
I think people discount children so much, don't they? They just think, oh, they're only 6. Who are they to have an opinion? And that it's their own individual life. It's up to them what they do with it. And we can be there to help and support and guide them and share our own experiences. But ultimately, they need to have that excitement for themselves, don't they? And be able to make their own choices. I completely agree with you.
Definitely, especially I look at, for example, myself. When I got into the workplace, I come from a culture where when you speak to people that are older than you, don't look them in the eye. You're very much respectful of those above you. So you get
Yeah.
into the workplace and your boss is talking and you're looking at the floor and your boss is thinking you're being rude
Yeah.
because you're not giving them eye contact. And yet I think I'm giving you respect because you're. Do you understand? And so it's so important that we actually open up and talk to them and explain what's going on, because actually being that quiet person, you will just get left behind in the workplace. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so actually you need to have a voice and you need to have an opinion and you can formulate that from young.
Yeah. So just to be clear, you're not going to be taking your son's whole pay packet the first day he gets paid?
Never, ever.
Never. Okay, right. It's been recorded. So if he needs to have the recording back, then let me know.
Yeah, no, he's good.
So you kind of touched on it a little bit with the universities and colleges, but why do you think that financial literacy is not commonly educated in schools? Because this is a big issue, isn't it?
Yeah, I say this and people may feel like, oh, but for me, I just feel that it's debt and bad money management is £1 billion business.
Yeah.
People are profiting from people's poor financial decisions. And so at the end of the day, if we knew better, imagine how many people wouldn't be doing payday loans and these types of and any loans, falling into overdraft, falling into debt. They want us, the society is based on consumerism. It's the way it works, especially in a country like the UK where it's not like we export huge amounts of things. Do you know what I mean? One of our biggest, if not our biggest industry, is financial services.
Yeah.
And so when you think of it from that point of view, they need us to be out here spending to make the economy go around, to make money pass hands, to create jobs and all of this type of stuff. And so for me, if you knew better and did better, a lot of people would be losing money. And so to me, that's the only reason, because there's no way you're going to tell me that algebra or X equals this or pi and all that is more important than how to pay a bill or what a direct debit and a standing order is.
Yeah, what we could teach them is so much more valuable that they would use in their everyday life than anything they're doing at school. And that's really interesting that you view it in that way. It's quite controversial. I like it. I mean, I agree. I always say I don't actually want financial education to be taught in schools, because I worry that a teacher could go into a curriculum, start teaching financial education, and then have their own money hang-ups and not be able to answer the questions properly. And even just as soon as you start scratching the surface, there's those new questions that come about, and then the teacher probably won't know the answer to those questions. So I think if we can get, us as experts can get into schools, then that's the best place for it to be. But how it will be positioned is the different thing, isn't it? Because it will probably get fallen into PHSE, where the kids all think it's an easy ride, it's the easy class of the day, and they don't really need to worry about it. So it's a funny one. There's no reason why it wouldn't have already been brought into the curriculum, apart from what you've already just shared. So I like the controversy, they say, isn't it? Controversy.
Yeah, and I feel like as well. I'm a big believer in parents as well stepping up.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we are so reliant on school. And during the lockdown, it really hit me because my boy was struggling with his maths, with his times tables and so forth. And obviously, maths is my thing. So I spent some time with him doing maths, and since then he just got a certificate because he's got every single maths test. He gets all the answers correct. But I was able to explain it to him, and I sat down. I said, "Why do we put so much pressure on one person trying to teach 20 to 30 kids, and think that person can really give your child what they need?" And so, just from an educational point of view, but also from a financial educational point of view, I feel like parents need to learn it and develop it themselves, and then teach it. No one should be able to teach your child, like, when it comes to finances, more than you. You should be. We're all exposed to finances, whether you have a lot of money or not. We're all exposed to it. So the responsibility shouldn't be on the schools. The responsibility should be on the parents. And so parents have to take that as part of the things that they need to learn.
Absolutely. It's a life skill. For me, you prioritize teaching your child to swim, it should be the same.
Exactly.
Prioritize teaching them financial education.
Exactly. I know the swimming thing is so funny because how often do we really swim? But it's such a big thing. Like, no, you must learn how to swim, because if you ever fell into the river one day, like, you know what I mean? But actually, how often are we, even if you go on holiday, you might be by the pool, but you're mostly in the shallow end, your feet are in, or you might go to the sea. You're not really going into the sea. You might just let the waves come. Like, how often are you really swimming? But it's something that we always put on our kids, when our kids to learn how to swim. But we don't put that same emphasis into finance when we know that you can't live in society without understanding how to manage your money.
They're going to use money every day, but they're not going to be by a swimming pool every day. It's a funny one, isn't it? So in relation to parents, then, you've talked about it being our responsibility, and I completely agree with you. What do you think the best thing that a parent can do to prepare for their child's financial future? Because I think this is something that's on a lot of people's minds.
I think for parents, it's you've got to know yourself and look at your own finances. You have to have like I said, a budget. And budget always feels like, oh, if you've got a budget, it's like a swear word. People hate budgeting, but actually for me, a budget is allowing you to see where your money is coming and going, and spotting the leaks. Because whether you like it or not, I always tell people, money flows. It comes in and it goes out. And so you need to spot if there's a hole in a pipe, you want to spot that. And so what a budget does is allow you to spot, oh, actually, look, we're spending X amount on this. Is that a lot? How does that compare to the rest of the stuff? Sometimes you'll find, like, I mean, when I do budgets, sometimes people are spending 60% of their money on food.
And they don't even realize it.
They don't even realize it. When you think about eating out, food at work, weekly shopping, the stops off during the week, then the takeaways, all of a sudden, and then by the time you add your rent or your mortgage and your bills, you wonder why there's no money left to invest or save or what. Do you know what I mean? And actually, a lot of the stuff is duplicated. So then also you find you never really thought about it, but a lot of it ends up in the bin because it goes off. Yeah. Because you're not planning actually, but you're going to eat. And this is it sounds so simple, but you're going to eat. So why don't you plan what you eat and then buy what you're going to eat?
Yes.
As opposed to just buying, knowing that you might, and think about, oh, what should I make today? No, it should be the other way around. You should know what you're going to make and then buy what you're going to make. And then you can change that. change those meals if you get bored or whatever. You can change that. And so for me, it's about understanding that, and it's about having a plan, especially when you're a parent, because there are so many things you can't plan for. The kids, I mean, how big do they grow and how quickly? You buy shoe today, they're gone. Like, but you
Yeah.
can budget for that. If you know that actually your kids are growing quickly, you know you can put £20 a month into an account whenever it comes up. It's not something that should be a shock. We know it's
Yeah.
going to happen. So it's about how, and that's why I feel like it's so important to plan and budget.
Yeah, I agree. And food's the one, isn't it? Because if you don't plan and budget for that, if you get to the 28th of the month and you just don't have a plan or a budget, you're just going to Tesco's and getting whatever you
Come
want,
on.
or should we just have a takeaway tonight? But actually, it should be a point of saying, oh shit, we've run out of money. What
Come
else
on.
have we got in the cupboards? What are we going to eat for the rest of the month? You know, we've got 3 days, we can do this. And people just don't have that awareness. Food is the one, isn't it, that always throws people's budgets out.
Yeah, I like to embarrass my clients. So I make them open up the cupboards, and we see, like, you've got 20 cans of beans. Why have you got 20 cans of beans? Like, you just kept ordering it, repeat order every week. We're not opening cupboards. You're not checking stuff. You've got plum tomatoes, and no one's using them. Like, do you know what I mean? And so actually, it's about, we forget that this is a resource. So when I make them add up, I say, look, add up all those beans and those cans of tomatoes. Add it all up. How much is that? When you find out that it's 50, 60 pounds in beans and tomatoes sitting in your cupboard, you haven't got savings for your kids.
Yes, exactly.
This is the, and then when I start to talk, you've got tomatoes and you've got beans, but you have no savings for your kids. All of a sudden, it's like, actually, I need to be more responsible.
Yeah. And then at the same time, educate your children, draw them into the budgeting, let them sit down and work out what you need and what meals you're going to eat and what food needs replacing in the cupboards, because that's a life skill that you need to teach them, or else they're just going to make the same mistake.
And when we talk about generational curses, people feel like there's some witch or wizard doing a curse. This is not Cinderella. This is not Disney. The generational curse is the lack of education. You pass on the lack of education to your children, and so they make the same mistakes. We forget the thing about having kids is our kids follow us so much. If you think about the words that your kids use, the way they speak, when like the things that the way they is all about you. They copy you. You are their first example. And so sometimes we are not living up to what we need to do as parents. It's beyond just being, I'm a mom, I'm a dad. It's actually, there is a responsibility that I'm responsible for this life, and this life looks to me. What am I going to do to myself in order to make sure that I'm giving them the best chance for them? And we talk about how much we love our kids, so we're going to buy them this, and we love them, and we're going to take them on this holiday. We love them, so they're going to Disney World. But if we really loved them, we would teach them how to be good people and how to manage and understand money, so they don't have to go through the sacrifices and the issues that we went through.
Yeah, I agree. We're their biggest role model. They look up to us. They need us to be displaying those life skills to them so that they can replicate that in their own lives. I completely agree with you. Thank you so much for everything that you've brought into conversation today. It's been great to talk with you and interview you. Such an honour. Do you want to tell us about what you've got exciting that's coming up in the next, is it a few weeks or?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me up. I mean, we've got different things happening online. Obviously, we've got the social media, so you can follow me on the Email Effect. We've got loads of content coming out, just educating people in my kind of weird and wacky way. Hopefully, I can make you smile, but make you also challenge yourself as well. That's the aim of the platform there. But yeah, working with loads of different brands and companies to try and get financial education out in different ways. And so, yeah, just look out for me.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on to my podcast. I really appreciate it. It's been great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. Loved it.
Take care.
You too.
Thank you so much for listening to Money Savvy Parents. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please subscribe and post your money questions within a review for future episodes. If you want to learn more, then please join my Money Savvy Parents Facebook group or club on Clubhouse. Let's remove the taboo from money together.